My first night in Athens was complicated by the general strikes. These were held by public sector employees who were protesting new proposals to cut pensions by 1.8 billion euros in compliance with the EU's bailout agreements. This rally was actually conducted by the police, and overall was peaceful, but it also meant no buses, trains, taxis, or subways because of the strikes. My final destination was not Athens, but the island of Lesbos, once vibrant with tourism, but now marred by refugee camps given its proximity to Turkey and Syria. Eventually, I made my way onto a ferry, and on the ride over, I replayed information I had researched extensively beforehand. Now I'm going to stop here and offer a precautionary trigger warning. The next photos are sourced from publicly available news outlets. They're not mine, but maybe disturbing. So on the ride over, I thought about how European countries are closing their borders, driven by fear. Greece's borders with Macedonia is in lockdown. Last month, December, Austria began building a fence on its border with Slovenia to, quote, better manage the refugees. And Greece is being threatened to be expelled from the Schengen Agreement if it doesn't control its refugee population within the next 3 months. Here on the island right now, one of the many rumors being circulated is that refugees are being detained on the border between Turkey and Syria. On this island alone, the International Rescue Committee estimates that 2,000 people arrive daily. They're soaking wet, many suffering from hypothermia. They're pregnant women and children. People drown every day, and it can get really intense here. Before arriving, I contacted other volunteers to learn from their insight, and they warned me that many bright-eyed volunteers, despite good intentions, hastily jump into a situation ready to do good, and their actions manifest into mistranslated confusion or unnecessary tension. So when I arrived, I wanted to prioritize listening first, observing, absorbing, hearing the perspectives of local community members and refugees and migrants and fellow volunteers. So I hitchhiked. I asked officials about their procedures to register refugees, how the transit camps intertwined along the path from the north coast to the south shore, why different nationalities of refugees are processed differently, and what the registration system was like. I also made a conscious effort to consistently recognize my biases and try to scrutinize the impact of my presence on the local community. And here I am. It's pretty cold here. Heating and electricity and Wi-Fi is a bit sparse. Some of the infrastructure wasn't designed to be operating during the winter, so got my layers on. In terms of working, one of the first places I worked at was a camp called Better Days for Moria. It's a volunteer-run, non-governmental campsite that distributes food, clean and dry clothes, water, gives haircuts, has tons of games, and exudes an aura of positivity. During a training session for psychosocial support, there are volunteers from Scotland, Portugal, Australia, Afghanistan, Yemen, and it's really cool to see all these cultures come together. In the camp, there's also so many children there, and we tried to teach them how to hula hoop without speaking the same language. It was really silly, but you could see it in their eyes. So bright, full of curiosity, questioning, childhood wonder, and some of the parents even tried playing. It was pretty hilarious. There was a lot of laughter. One of the girls kept holding onto this doll. And I can only imagine what the doll went through to get here onto this tiny island, and who knows what next. On my way home, I always walk past the port where refugees board the ferry to mainland Greece and hopefully Greater Europe to establish a better life for them and their families. Another volunteer once told me that she saw a mother carrying a teddy bear in a baby sling that was badly torn, but there was no child around her. I'm not a parent, but I don't think I'd be able to look into her eyes. And despite our language barrier, I don't think anyone would be able to communicate or vocalize that experience.